Our Rabbinic Intern, Ariel Sholklapper.
They say that every 7 years, almost every cell in the human body is replaced. I love that idea. It's a fresh start without having to go back to middle school, or even worse yet, high school. I love that idea because it means that if I make a decision to change my lifestyle in some major way, 7 years later, my body will completely reflect that change. Well, as it turns out, new research shows that notion is patently false. We don't replace every cell in our body every 7 years. And it turns out the neurons that are in our cerebral cortex are never replaced. That means that the neurons you're born with are the neurons you're going to spend the rest of your given life with. So that's the bad news. We're stuck with our neurons. But recent studies in neuroplasticity confirm that all hope is not lost. It's true, you can't replace your neurons. However, Dr. Daniel J. Siegel, professor of clinical psychology at UCLA, in his book, The Developing Mind, explains the synaptic connections between our neurons are only maintained by ongoing neural firing. So what does that mean? Over time, if we act and think the same way, our mind will create ingrained neural pathways. Instead of reinventing the wheel each time we have an experience, expending unnecessary energy, our mind creates default ways to process and respond to the world around us. It is astoundingly efficient. So what happens, though, if we want to change our defaults? Are we doomed to our current ways? As it turns out, no. We're not. It's fascinating. Using a variety of cutting-edge brain imaging techniques, Dr. Siegel and others have proved that if we learn to focus our minds, we can actually change the way our neurons fire. We can reroute and reconfigure those neural pathways by simply paying attention over and over in a particular way. So how do we do it? He writes, we focus our mind by paying attention on purpose to the present experience as it emerges moment by moment without being swept up in judgment. That's the opposite of being on autopilot or being mindless in our actions. So there it is, the key to lasting change. So simple, so powerful, just pay attention, but it's not that easy. I'm not going to give a drash about the state of the art of neuroscience. If I wanted to do that, I would have invited Dr. Linda Spitz give a speech on this topic way more authoritatively than I'll ever be able to accomplish. What I am going to elucidate is the opportunities that our tradition has given us to reshape our lives. Rabbi Spitz preempted me in his Torah and Tidbits this week, revealing that this week's Torah portion is filled with opportunities to focus our energy. Shabbat, Pesach, Shavuot, counting the Omer, the laws of tithing and charity, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, all of those are in our Torah portion this week. So what's the story with the Omer? We read, "You should count for yourselves, beginning with the day after the day of rest, when you bring the Omer wave offerings. 7 weeks shall be counted and completed until the day after the 7th week, 50 days. Each night, beginning with the second night of Pesach, we count the days of the Omer. 7 weeks and 1 day, 50 days in total, culminating in Shavuot. Last night, and thus today, the 28th day of the Omer." Look, I'm not proposing that each and every ritual we have has to be inlaid with deep-seated meaning, but really, we're going to be expected to count for 50 days? There must be something deeper. As it turns out, there is. Our tradition understands the counting of those 50 days as an opportunity for profound spiritual growth. The Zohar, in expounding on the verses of the Omer, explains the purified. That way we can receive the Torah at Shavuot. It explains that when the Israelites left Egypt, they had slave minds, and that the counting was a way for those Israelites to purify themselves, to ready themselves to go to Sinai, where they were going to receive the Torah. By counting, they prepared themselves. 3,000 years ago, long before neuroscience could prove one way or another, our tradition tapped into a sacred and timeless wisdom. Counting the Omer can be done mindfully instead of mechanically. We can actually fundamentally alter our nature and the way that our neurons fire. If we focus our attention, we can leverage the opportunity the Omer gives us to reshape our minds, to resculpt the way our neurons are firing, to purify ourselves. Because our cells are going to be the same year after year, but our neurons and the way they fire, that's up to us. Classically, each day of the Omer is coupled with a set of midot, or virtues. And those virtues are meant to guidepost for us. Each day we can focus our energy on being a bit more reflective of the virtue prescribed for that day. But it's not just the Omer that provides us this opportunity for growth and renewal. It's our everyday prayer. It's the food we put in our body on a daily basis. It's Shabbat. It's the festivals. It's the high holidays. The Zohar explains the counting helped Israelites purify themselves, so I ask, during this Omer, in the remaining 22 days before Shavuot, before we receive the Torah, how might we prepare ourselves to receive the Torah? What are the ways in which we are in need of purification? Where are we stuck in our lives? And how can counting the Omer help us unshackle ourselves? Dr. Siegel would likely agree that using opportunities within this tradition, like the Omer, to focus our attention can result in real and lasting neurological change. Yes, we are stuck with our neurons, but we can find completely new ways of using those neurons. The Omer is just another way that our tradition offers us to help in that process. My dear friends, we have one life to live. Let's not squander the opportunity Shabbat Shalom.